again, our most valued student. My name is Confident. Welcome to our third lesson of the basic or foundation on trigonometry. And as I said, this is best for those who are doing grade 11 and grade 12, as well as those who are doing their N3 and N4. This is good foundation for you so that you can understand most of the things about the trigonometry. Now, in this particular lesson, I'm going to give you some practical examples that you can find in your exam. Now guys, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, I'll encourage you to subscribe to our channel, as well as like our channel or leave some comments. And if you can possible do so, you can even share this channel to your friends and your colleagues so that they can also benefit from these lessons. And also, if you want certain lessons done which you feel like you need more work on them, you can just suggest below and leave us some comment, and we'll gladly do so. Now let me go to the lesson. As I say, this is a continuation. You need to grab part 1 as well as part 2 of this lesson in order for you to be able to do the part 3 of that. Now this is my cast diagram again, and from the beginning we said the cast diagram, you move clockwise from 0. So this is our point from 0, go to 90, to 180, 270 and 360, and it says all students take chemistry, and that word cast start from the fourth quadrant, CAST. That is where cast comes from. And the reduction rules there, we have got 360 minus theta in the fourth quadrant because it is before 360. In the first quadrant is 90 minus theta because it is acute angles. Whenever they talk of acute, it means it's less than 90 degrees. After 90, you have got 90 plus theta and 180 minus theta. Why is it 180 minus theta? Because you have not passed 180. So it's 180 minus, but it's 90 plus because it's after 90. And then in the third quadrant, it is 180 plus because you've just passed 180. I said avoid working with 270. For now, I'll do some lessons that deal with 270, but I always encourage you to work with either 180 plus theta, 360 minus theta, 90 minus theta, 90 plus theta, as well as 180 minus theta. And also you can see which trig ratios are positive. Is it sine? Is it cos? Is it tan? And so on. So in this particular lesson here, let me bring you some questions that are common. I'm just going to write you a few examples that are common, and we have to simplify. Now the question here says simplify, and remember, no calculator in this case. So they don't want you to use a calculator, but you know what I always encourage you, when they say no calculator use, you just have to use that calculator to find the answer. So what is the question saying? You are given cos 210 degrees dot 10 squared 315 degrees divided by sine 300 times cos 120. So now what are we having here? I'll just do my working on the right hand side of my line. So the first thing you need to do is remember you're using or relying on your reduction rules that we did previously, which is your cast diagram. So now let's look at cos 120. Now if you know, or you have been following in the previous lesson, you said you identify where do I find cos 120. I will find it in the second quadrant. And what's happening in the second quadrant? The reduction rule that I always prefer to start with is 180 minus theta. So I'm going to write it as cos 180 degrees minus theta, but now the angle that I'm going to use is the one whereby I separate 180 minus 120. It will give me that theta angle, which is 60 degrees. So you can see that 180 minus 60 is 120. Now the next question I ask myself is, what is cos in this quadrant? You can see that cos is negative in this quadrant. So the answer then becomes negative cos 60. See that? I have reduced cos 120 into negative cos 60. By the way, they said no calculator. We're going to use our calculator later. and then get everything done. The next one is 10 315. Forget about the square for now. Focus on 10 315, which is equal to, now again you ask yourself which quadrant is 10 315. It is in 315 is after 270. It is in the fourth quadrant. And what is the reduction rule? Is 360 minus theta. So you're going to have 10 360 degrees minus, you separate the two angles, 360 minus 315, so that you can get that angle. 360 minus 315, it gives me 45 degrees. So I've got 45 there. I'm having, now remember the reduction rule. What is 10? 10 is negative in the fourth quadrant. So I've got negative 10, that particular angle, which is 45 degrees. That's how you're simplifying that. Sine 300 is the next one. Again, sine 300 is in the fourth quadrant. So you're using the same, which is 360 degrees. Now subtract 360 minus 60 degrees, you'll get 300. Actually it's sine, not 10. And then the next thing you need to ask yourself is, what is sine in the quadrant? It's also negative in the fourth quadrant. So it is going to be negative sine that angle, which is 60 degrees. And the last one that you are going to use is cos 120. So if you have cos 120 degrees is equal to, you ask yourself which quadrant, which is the second quadrant, is where I find 120. So it will be cos, the reduction rule that I'm going to use is 180 minus theta. So it will be cos 180 degrees. If you subtract the two numbers, 180 and 20 is minus 60 degrees in this case, which is equal to, you ask what's sine, it is negative, cos is negative in the second quadrant, so it is negative cos that angle theta, which is 60 degrees. So what you do now, you write all these together now that you're getting. So this becomes equal to, where there is cos 210, actually I think I made an error here, because I said 120 is supposed to be 210 here. So it's cos 210. I don't know why I wrote 120. Let's go and check cos 210. It's after 180 but before 270. So it's in quadrant number 3, which is 180 plus theta. So this is cos 180 degrees. So what number must we add? So I'm going to say 210 minus 180 is giving me 30 degrees. So it's that plus 30 degrees in this case, which is equal to, and then I check what is cos in that quadrant. Cos is negative also, so it's negative cos 30 degrees. It is that angle that I'm choosing there. So now when I simplify this, it will be equal to negative cos 30. Now put it in brackets like that, put another bracket. Now if it says squared, it means you put a bracket and you put the squared outside like that. Now 315 is negative 1045 all over, and then sine 300, we got that it was negative sine 60. Again, put it in brackets, as well as cos 120, we got negative cos 60. All right, so that is what we had. And then when you want to simplify that, we're going to look at it after I've shown you the what we call the special angles, but you're allowed for now, I'll allow you to use a calculator for the special angles, which you will learn how to use them. So we're just gonna have for cos 30, you see that is root 3 over 2, so you've got minus root 3 over 2, and then 1045 here, you will have in this case So 1045 is equal to 1. So you've got minus 1 squared all over, and then sine 60. Here it will be, as I said, I'm just using a calculator for now, root 3 over 2. Alright. And then what we have is cos 60, which is going to be, in this case, cos 60 is going to be 1 over 2. So there is a negative there, and there is a negative on those. So you're following on the signs. Don't forget to follow on the signs. Now the next thing that you need to do then is to simplify. So this cancels with that, and then minus 1 squared is 1 over, and then you've got negative 1 over 2. Then when you use, again, you can use a calculator. You can actually avoid using a calculator. It is 1 divided by negative 1 over 2, which is equal to 1 times negative 2 over 1, and the answer is negative 2. So you could have used a calculator in a way, because you can predict to say 1 over negative 1 over 2, it's giving me a negative 2. Now if I go to my original that I started with and use a calculator there in the original to find out what is it that it is giving me and simplify it from that end, I will have, in this case, cos 210 times, remember 10 squared, that's how you punch, you say 10 315 close, and then you open the bracket and say squared, then you come down here and say sine 300 times cos 120, then you say equal to, you see I'm also getting a negative 2. So that is how you solve this using the same what they call the reduction rules that we're talking about in this case. So that is the first part. Now let us look at another last example for our lesson, to say, using the reduction rules in this case, you're supposed to simplify the following. So here we're saying simplify. You are given 10 180 degrees plus x. This multiplies with cos 360 degrees minus x, then it's all over sine 180 degrees minus x multiplied by cos 90 degrees plus x, and then plus cos 540 degrees plus x, and then times cos negative x. So basically this is still over, this is dividing. So this is long, it looks long, but you need to simplify that, but it mustn't intimidate you, because you must look at it one at a time. So let us start with this part. I'm going to tick what we're going to do. Now look, it's cos 180 plus x. So what I do is I go and find out what is 180 plus x. If I go backwards, in this case, to my reduction rule, 180 plus is in the third quadrant, and I'm dealing in this case with 10, and you can see that 10 is positive here. You can see that 10 is positive, so which means 180 plus will also give me a positive 10. So it's 180 plus theta is 10 theta. So which means 180 plus x, this gives me 10x. I'll put it in brackets, and then do another one. Now I'm in 360 minus x here. I identify which quadrant, and you can see that it's in the fourth quadrant where I get 360 minus theta, and in the fourth quadrant I'm dealing with cos, and cos is positive, so it's positive cos theta, which means also here is positive cos x. Basically, that's the first part, divided by sin 180. I'm on this one now, 180 minus x. Identify 180 minus theta. It is in the second quadrant, and sine is positive, so which means also here I'm going to have a positive sin x. Again, remember everything in bracket. Cos 90 plus x. Now you identify 90 plus. 90 plus is in the second quadrant, so whenever you deal with 90, you need to pause a little bit and remember 90 deals with cofunctions. So when you start with cos, you end up with sine. But what is the sign of cos? Cos is negative in the second quadrant. You can see 90 plus cos is negative, so you're going to use the sign of cos. Why? Because we are dealing with cos, so it's going to be negative. Now the cofunction of cos is sine, then it becomes sine x. Remember, from cos 90 to sine x, and then you've got plus. Now when they say 540 plus x, just to show you something here, this is same as saying if they say cos 540 plus x, what you do is you are going to say cos, a full revolution is 360 degrees. Why? Because you can see that we to complete a cycle is 360. So for you to do that, then what you need to do is to come back here and say 360 plus, then you use a calculator to find out 540 minus 360, which is 180. So it's 360 plus 180 degrees plus x. So this then becomes cos 180 degrees plus x. So that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with cos 180 plus x. So this is cos 180 degrees plus x. That is actually what you're dealing with. So you ask yourself, what is cos 180 plus x? So you come here to say it is 180 plus theta is in the third quadrant, and what is cos? Cos is negative in the third quadrant. So you come here and say the cos is negative, and what you're gonna write is minus cos x. That's what we found out, cos is negative. And the next one is cos negative x. Remember the negative angles, so we've done that. Now cos negative s, the negative angles, we said with the negative angles you are landing, if you look at the arrows, you are landing in the fourth quadrant. Remember, we said negative angles, positive is anti-clockwise, negative is clockwise, which means you're in the fourth quadrant. And what is cos? Cos is positive. So then this becomes cos, bracket, is cos x. So this is how all this simplified to. Now your duty is then to finalize the whole part now, to say 10x cos x over that. Now if you write it, you need to identify a few identities, which I'm going to go ahead of myself. If you know it, it's going to be good. Remember, 10x is sine x over cos x. If you remember this identity, it will be good because it's very important for you to remember that identity. So 10, where there is 10, you're going to have sine x over cos x times, remember, we have got cos x. You can see how these are going to cancel on top there. Now sine x and sine x with a negative sign is negative sine squared x, and then negative cos x is negative cos squared x. So with that, you continue. The cos and the cos will cancel, so that at the top we are going to have sine x over 1, so you'll have simple sine x over, let's take out the negative at the bottom. It's going to be factorize negative, put a bracket, it will be sine squared x plus cos squared x. Again, going ahead of myself, you need to know this identity which says sine squared theta plus cos squared theta. This is equal to 1. You know it's an identity that is given. So what it means here, you are going to say this is equal to sine x over minus 1, and the answer is negative sine x. So that is actually what the whole thing simplified to at the end of the day. So when I'm talking about simplifying using the cast diagram, this is what we'll be referring to. And again, as I said, this is a 3-part lesson. I hope this lesson was of benefit to you, whereby I was laying the foundation of using the reduction rules, and in the next coming lessons I'll be talking about the special angles, how they fit into this, so that you can also conclude them, as well as these identities also, how they fit into this. We have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.